Welcome, readers. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's K-12 Summer Author Talk series brought to you by the Library Speakers Consortium. The Library Speakers Consortium is a partnership of more than 400 library systems across the United States, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, with the goal of making author talks more accessible to communities of all sizes. I am Jasmine Castillo, your host. Today, we have the author of the action-packed Last Kids on Earth series. Let's welcome Max Brallier.
Hello.
There you are.
You held up the book, and I realized that I'm supposed to have it so I can do my reading. So I'll find it at some point when it's time to do that. How are you?
Good, Max. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I know everyone is excited to get started, but before we begin, let me pause to remind you that you may submit questions during the talk by clicking the questions button below the live stream video. Keep in mind, there are a lot of you tuning in today, so we will get to as many questions as possible. Max, it is said that your book is like Diary of a Wimpy Kid meets The Walking Dead. Can you tell us about The Last Kids on Earth, book 1, the one that started it all?
I can try. I'm really bad at talking about. I feel like I should be good by now about like describing what the book is, but I'm still not great at it. So The Last Kids on Earth, the first book and the sort of the series itself is about this kid named Jack Sullivan. He's a foster child. He's in 6th grade, and one day the world ends. Basically, these portals open up and zombies come through and giant monsters come through, and he has to sort of battle them and stay alive and put together a team of best friends. He has one best friend, and then he has a crush on this girl in his class, and then there's this sort of class bully who's not the nicest, but he becomes the nicest, and then together they sort of do like big adventure stuff in this end of the world sort of suburban town. And as the series goes on, it becomes more of a like save the entire world sort of deal. So yeah.
Well, it is a lot of fun to read. And Logan from Benicia Public Library asked, what inspired you to create these characters and the worlds of Last Kids on Earth?
Oh, good. Okay, so I feel like there's a lot of different stuff that whenever I talk about inspiration, it feels like I'm lying because like last time I said something different. There's like but there's like a couple big sort of the biggest things are like, so I grew up really loving like all things adventure, like adventure story. Well, not like all, I didn't like hiking and like doing like adventure boy stuff. But, like I like sitting on the couch and like watching adventure movies and reading comics and playing video games. And so I really wanted to sort of create a new, like my own version of like Indiana Jones meets the Goonies meets Boxcar Children sort of vibe. And I grew up in Pittsburgh for a bit. And so I was really into zombies from an early age before they became like everywhere. And it was like the zombies, all over the place. And then when that happened, when it was like zombies all over the place after like Walking Dead and 28 Days Later and stuff, I was really bummed. It's like I had always wanted to make a zombie thing like when they weren't around. And then I was like, oh, I probably missed the boat. But then it came out and it's people were still into zombies. And I think maybe the biggest thing I think is I used to daydream all the time. And I remember like getting picked up after school by my parents, and they'd be like, hey, guess what? We have to do like errands today. And I'm like, I don't want to go do errands. I want to go home and like, hang around. And so I'd end up at like the grocery store with my parents or like Marshall's or something. And what I would do while I was there is I would sort of zone out and daydream and imagine like, what if like Godzilla's foot came crashing through the ceiling of the grocery store? Then what would happen? I would do the same stuff at school and same stuff at like my friends' houses. So I wanted to basically do like a big sort of adventure action series and write those sort of scenes, but instead of them taking place like in outer space or in some ancient cave, it would be like in everyday places that people knew and understand, like could relate to. So that was a big part of it too. So it was that stuff. Plus I had Treehouse when I was a kid. I loved James Bond movies with lots of gadgets. And that's it.
Man, I always wanted my own treehouse. I think I could still make that happen now as an adult, especially now. Okay, so you mentioned that you thought of these things when you were like running errands with your parents, which means you were bored. So being bored is a good thing, huh?
Being bored is a great thing, and it's I have a daughter. I have a daughter. She's 7, and she cannot handle being bored, and it's like scary. And I'm trying to deal with it because like she doesn't. Um, she always has there's like always so much access to stuff, not like great stuff, but just like stuff. I remember just like like sitting in the back of the car on a road trip, and like I would have like a couple books, and a magazine, like a Mad magazine, and then like I'd usually get like a one like tiny Lego set. It was like a big like 10-hour car trip. But like there was no screen, there was no like I would spend a lot of time just like thinking and like exploring your own thoughts and like thinking about things. And that's like I think being bored is really important, and we sort of like seem to have a lot of trouble handling it now, like just dealing with that feeling. But I mean, it's I do the same thing. At the grocery store, like pull out my phone and like look at something and do something. It's better just to like I don't know. I did all my best thinking is like when I'm bored. I feel like.
Yes, I agree. We should let ourselves be bored sometimes. You never know what will happen. Alexander from Wyckoff Public Library wonders,
exactly.
are the last kids on Earth, the 4 main characters, are they inspired by real kids?
Yeah, parts. So Jack is of all the characters, like all the characters I've ever written. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot. There's Jack's like the I think Jack's the best character I've written, and he's also he's a lot like me. And when I started, not found the best, but just I think because it's a lot like me, it ends up being sort of most like fully sort of realized character, most like sort of honest and real, even though he's not real at all. But like I think there's stuff that he thinks about and narrates that gets a little bit real, and it's not like it's the real world. But when I started I spent a lot of time trying to write something that I would enjoy writing, people would want to read. And when I started writing The Last Kids, I really didn't really know what I was doing. It was really there was a kid in a treehouse and there were zombies, and that was all I knew. And when I started writing, I tried first it was third person, then I switched to first. When I switched to first person, it came really natural. Like the voice, just like it felt like, oh, this is great. Like I'm not. It's just like I would just type and it was just Jack talking, and so he sounds sort of a lot like me, but also the voice that he has is easy for me to find. At least in the beginning it was. So Jack's a lot like me. Quint's a combination of a couple of my best friends from growing up. My best friend from middle and high school and still today. His last name is Baker. That's why Quint's last name is Baker. His first name is Quint because I love Jaws, and also because he was very much like Q from James Bond inspired. So I wanted a Q name, and there's not like a lot of Q names. That's Quint. June is a combination of 2 friends of mine, both named Jill and my sister. So the 3 of them kind of became June with a little bit of Mindy Kaling from the Mindy Show, because that was on when I was writing it. And then Dirk is the one who's most kind of like just made up from out of nowhere. Like I just sort of he just sort of I wanted like sort of a character that would cause the group problems because he was they had a history, and but as the series went on, Dirk became more sort of fleshed out, less cardboard, I think. And then I started to pull from people I knew growing up, including a friend of mine, to write about like Dirk's issues with his dad and stuff. And yeah, so all 4 of them have at least some piece of like life from like real people.
I love that. So you can create from things that for those viewers out there that are trying to make their own stories. So you wrote the story.
It's so much easier that way.
It is, right? But you wrote the story,
yeah.
But the illustrations are made by Douglas Holgate. Can you tell us how you worked together with him to create the book? Donna from Greene County Library wants to know.
So I feel like this is the answer that always kind of surprises people the most. Doug and I have done, I think, let's see, like maybe 15 books together, 14 books together now. And I think I've met Doug only twice. So he lives in Australia. I don't live in Australia. I live far away from Australia. So yeah, he lives in Australia, and he doesn't get to the United States very often. I don't get to Australia ever in my life. We were supposed to do when book 6 came out. Was it 6? Yeah, the books, the Skeleton Road. It's like a big road trip. Sort of the whole book is a road trip. Like a monster wasteland road trip. And so the Penguin was going to fly him over here, and we were going to go on like a month-long road trip tour together in this like sort of like souped up, like painted Jeep. And we were going to go to bookstores and libraries and schools together. But then it was COVID, so that didn't happen. And then they never, and the next book was not a road trip book, and they were like, okay, that's over. So then he didn't get to come for that. And so, yeah, we don't like, I don't hang out all the time. I wish we did. He's really cool and awesome. But the other thing is, even if he lives like 3 houses down, our work is sort of separated. It's like I write the manuscript, it gets edited and sort of finished. And as I'm writing it, because the way Last Kids on Earth works, it's like it's illustration and then or text and illustration and text and illustration, and you can't just sort of like pull the story doesn't really work without the illustrations. They're not there just to support the text. They're part of this. They're really part of it. So I write. I have about 160 spots in each book. I know I can say like illustration goes here, and so I write that. And then when I'm sort of all done writing, Doug then takes that and he starts drawing, and he makes my dinky little descriptions look really great. But we're really sort of separated with my editor and the book's designer in the middle to keep us from being like, hey, you know what we should do? Add 40 new illustrations, and then that would like put the book behind schedule. So they sort of I think if it's up to us, we wouldn't even have each other's cell phone numbers. It's up to them.
Wow, that's so interesting. So y'all work separately, but y'all did a really great job on all of these books.
They really work together because of Jim, the designer. He's made it looks like it feels like I think that we sat in the same room together and did it, which I always feel very, very happy.
It does. Yeah. Would you mind reading us an excerpt from book 1?
Yeah, I wouldn't, but I have to find the book now because remember when I was trying to fix my technical thing here, I moved my book around, my office around. Hold on. Wait, where is it? Everybody can enjoy it. Everybody got it. Okay. Book 1. You would think that I had a lot of copies of it around, but I actually only have 1 because I always, when you publish a book, they only give you 10 copies. The publisher, it's not like you have like endless copies. So you get 10, and then I give them away. Yeah, sometimes 20. Okay, so we're starting with, I found it. Oh, wait, this is Percy Jackson. I was kidding. This is the real book. Okay, so chapter 1. That's me, not the giant monster, beneath the giant monster. The kid on his back with the splintered bat. The handsome kid about to get eaten. 42 days ago, I was regular Jack Sullivan, 13 years old, living an uneventful life in the uninteresting town of Wakefield. Wakefield is the town that not that I grew up in, but the town one over from where I grew up in. That's where I got the name from. That's where my high school girlfriend lives. That's where the name of the town in the series came from. I was totally not a hero, totally not a tough guy, and totally not fighting giant monsters. But look at me now, battling a gargantuan beast on the roof of the local CVS. Life is crazy like that. Right now, the whole world is crazy like that. Check the shattered windows, check the wild vines crawling up the side of the building. All these things are not normal. Not normal, not normal, not normal. And me, I haven't been normal, well, ever. I've always been different. See, I'm an orphan. I bounced all over the country, different homes, different families, before landing in this little town of Wakefield in December. But all that moving, it makes you tough, makes you cool, makes you confident, makes you good with the girls. It makes you Jack Sullivan. Oh, crud, incoming monster fist. And then crunch with a little burst that says, close call. Yikes. I almost got a monster fist to the skull there. So I'm at CVS because I need an eyeglass repair kit. Those little tool sets that dads buy when their glasses break. I know, it's like a sort of dumb thing to need, but I have a walkie, and that walkie is busted. And to fix that walkie, I need a really, really, really tiny screwdriver. The only place to get a really, really, really tiny screwdriver is in an eyeglass repair kit. This is supposed to be a quick, easy trip to CVS, but one thing I've learned about life after the monster apocalypse, nothing's quick and nothing's easy. This monster here is the foulest, most ferocious, and just plain horrible thing I've encountered yet. He is straight up ka-slam. Yikes. The monster's massive fist pounds the roof until it cracks like thin ice. I trip, tumble back, and land hard on my bony butt. It's time to stop being this monster's punching bag. See, I've kind of been the world's punching bag for a while, and you know what? Just ain't a whole lot of fun. So I'm fighting back. I get to my feet. I dust myself off. I grip the bat in my hand, not too tight, not too loose, just like they coach you in Little League. Only I'm not trying to hit some kid's lousy curveball. I'm trying to slay a monster. Deadly Duel, who will triumph. This is my favorite piece of art in the whole series, I think. I really love it. When I saw that, like they sent it to me early, and I was like, oh, wow, this is really, I was really happy that Doug made this thing that I wrote look like amazing. Well, okay. Basically, he triumphs. The monster's massive hand snatches me out of midair. I'm a thimble in his gargantuan grasp. I try to grab hold of my baseball bat blade, aka the Louisville Slicer, but the monster's crushing grip pins my arms to my sides. He pulls me in close to his face. Thick saliva like slime oozes down his lips. His eyes scan me over, and his gaping nostrils flare as he inhales my scent. And I'll stop there because it's really hot in my garage. And the more I read it, I'll overheat there.
Hey, thank you. That was wonderful. I
haven't read that. I haven't read that in a long time. That was cool.
Okay, speaking of monsters, and you said you love that monster picture there. Jack from Wisconsin wants to know how you came up with all the monster names. They're so cool.
Oh, the monster names. I feel like I put a lot more effort into it early on because I was like, I think it was that I had like a couple of good ideas for monster names, and then I used them all up in the first 3 books. So Blarg is the big bad guy in the first book, and when I was doing that, that was like my favorite monster. I was like, he's a combination of the Rancor from Return of the Jedi and a couple other monsters, and I was like, okay, this is like the ultimate monster in my mind. I didn't have a good name. And then I was at a coffee shop in New York where I lived at the time, and I was really frustrated writing. And I said Blarg, which is what Liz Lemon says in 30 Rock. I said it out loud because I was frustrated. And then I was like, oh, wait, that sounds like Blarg, sort of. And then so the name just came from me saying Blarg, like Liz Lemon. Some are like the Romungulus is a humongous worm. So that was sort of straightforward. Thrall is like sort of the big bad guy. His name was actually Crawl for a while. It's like 9 months of writing the second book, it was Crawl. And then at the last minute, I realized that's from a movie called Crawl. And I had to pick another name because the book was basically finished. Like it had already been laid out and everything. And I was like, oh, wait, I stole that name, not on purpose. So I had to pick another name that was the same length exactly on the page so that they could replace them all without messing up the any of the line breaks or anything. So the KRULL is like, because the K's are really big, it's like sort of the same as THRULL. So that's where Thrall came from. Those are like the ones that really jump to mind, like that I remember the sort of where they came from. A lot of times it's just like typing something and being like trying to like, it's sort of like almost like playing like with Scrabble where you're trying to like, if I keep rearranging this stuff, it's like I know I had 2 D monsters in the last book, so I need a new letter, and then I sort of just start playing with letters.
So you just play with the language. Now, Grayson from Timberland Regional Library wants to know, what is your favorite monster that you've made up in your mind? The Blarg in the first book, when I started writing, when I wrote the first book, I didn't know if I would get to write more than I think 1 book. I was like, this might be it. This is the only last kid's book. There wasn't necessarily going to be a sequel or anything. People didn't read it or buy it. So I was like, this is my one chance to have to make up something in my head, and then Doug, this amazing illustrator, is going to draw whatever I make up and make it look awesome. And so I made Blarg trying to create sort of like in my head what the ultimate kind of monster could be. So yes, the Rancor plus a little bit of T-Rex from Jurassic Park, and then some different like kind of Lovecraft creatures. That's probably my favorite one of them. Yeah, but I really like the Romungulus too, the worm monster, and the mollusk, which is a giant, like a giant sort of worm with the world with like the
It's sort of like the Mall of America on its back, like a shell, and they live in at that one. When I had that idea, I was really excited. I was like, oh, that's like actually a good idea. Like I feel like most of them are not good, but that was like a good one.
There's a big octopus one that I really like, and then there's a big eyeball, the big hairy eyeball monster. That one has to be.
Yeah. That was that's the one. The idea of it, the hair being on the eyeballs and it shoots it out like quills. That's when I was like, oh, I got excited writing it. I was like, that's gonna be fun. Yeah.
We have a few questions. Well, we had a lot of wonderings about the Netflix series. Will there be another season?
Not of the animated series. So we did the 3, and then they were like, "That's enough," and I was like, "Okay." But it was really like the most kind of amazing experience doing it. It's like now it's the reason I live in Los Angeles now. But we've been trying for a little while, but we're making a little bit of progress. A live action version maybe, and we've made some progress, so we'll see. But I have my fingers crossed, but like it's definitely we'll see if anything happens, but it'd be really cool.
Oh my gosh, I would like
I'm really proud of the Netflix series.
I would like to volunteer to be a zombie in the background. I would do it.
Hired.
Yes.
So they told me that I was a zombie in the Netflix series, and I went to a booth and I recorded myself making zombie sounds, and they told me where I was, and I watched it like a dozen times, and I can't hear my voice. I think they just did it like to be nice, and I'm not in there at all because I was bad at doing zombie sounds.
Boo! You should still take the credit. Okay, so speaking of,
I know it's just
Ian and Nico want to know, how long does it take you to write one of these books? I know you're probably working on another one right now. We'll save that for later. But how long does it take
you? I used to sort of know. Now they seem to just take forever. They sort of seem to take. They just seem to keep going and going and going until the publisher finally is like, we have to go to print, and then we go to print, and I'm done. It used to be like 6 months, and now I feel like it's more like 9 months. That then when the 9 months is up, I'm supposed to have already started the next one. So it's like they're just like endlessly like that snake that eats its own tail, whatever that thing. Yeah. Like it's just they're endlessly. It's like I've been on it just late on the Last Kids on Earth book for about 9 years now. So it just but like probably like between 6 and 9 months, and then like Last Comics, which is a spinoff. I write with my friend of mine, and his different illustrator was also a friend of mine. Those are like 5 months. Those are a little bit, because it's graphic novel, it seems to take a little bit less time.
Janae from Snow Isle Libraries asks, how can kids get inspired to create stories and characters themselves? You touched a little bit about it earlier, about just being bored sometimes and seeing what happens, but what else can kids do?
Sorry, say that question one more time.
How can kids get inspired to create stories and characters themselves? You mentioned a little bit about being bored sometimes.
I think it's really, I think it's like finding a time and a space to sort of like allow yourself to not be distracted by stuff and not be surrounded by stuff, and just sort of like have a sort of then you start drawing, you start writing, you start typing, whatever it is. If you just sort of like let your brain breathe a little bit, and then like ideas come, and also like getting outside and doing different things, like stuff you haven't done before. New places are always like, oh, like that's cool, it looks different, that makes me think of this, or stuff like that.
I like that. That's great advice. What about as I've mentioned, this is a series. This is book 1, and now we're on book 9. Ooh, this last book is called The Monster Dimension. Can you tell us what is next for our heroes? Are there any sneak peeks you can give our audience?
Let's see. So book 10 supposed to be done by now, but I'm behind. But so book 10 will be done very soon, and that book 10 picks up right where book 9 left off, sort of the exact moment in a way. And then there will be, then I immediately start writing book 11, and we're also doing a like a full color, full graphic novel adaptation of the first book. The first and definitely second book. We'll see after that, and that's going to come out next like November.
Yeah. That's really cool. James wants to know if you have an idea like about how many more books you're going to do.
I did have an idea about how many books. I knew when it was going to end and how. But I've sort of revised that in my head a little bit. Still the same ending for for this series, but when it happens is a little bit different. There will definitely be at least 3 more books, is what I'll say. Yeah.
Kalanji from LA Public Library is wondering, what made you want to write kids' books? Because I know you have several other series as well.
Yeah, I have a couple other series, but most of the writing I've done is for kids. I tried really hard to write books for adults at first, and turned out I was really bad at it. I wrote like a lot of stuff that no one should ever read. It was not good. I tried to write stuff that was not like within my, like I tried to write stuff that I thought people like would buy at a bookstore, which led me to write like my own version of like the Lincoln Lawyer, but I don't know what a lawyer really does in actuality, so it was awful. And like my own Jack Reacher character, and it was awful. So I think I'm sort of I'm kind of like a big kid, at least in the stuff that I like to collect and stuff, and sort of play with. And I when I started writing kids stuff, I just found it came pretty naturally. Like much more than trying to write adult stuff. And once I was published as a kids author, I found that talking to kids about books and reading was like really made me really happy, and that I really liked that more than I expected. Like I hadn't thought about it, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna do this job because then I get to like go to schools all the time. That seems weird. But I was like, oh, this is actually great. So yeah, that's why I'm a kids author.
Kids are the best. And speaking of, PJ from Pioneer Library System submitted a great question. He wants to know, how would you actually survive a zombie apocalypse?
I would not. So I would not be good at that. I feel like I should be now. Is that a bomb? What's happening? Is that? Oh, that was a beeping thing here. Oh my god. Okay, I thought it was the. I thought like we were running out of time on the thing, and I was like, oh god, we're out of time. Hold on. It's telling me. I thought it was a cool watch, but it's not really that cool. So wait, what was the question again? Sorry, go ahead. One more time.
How would you survive the zombie
apocalypse? Okay. So I would not. The one thing that like maybe help me, but I have to like find somebody who's really tough and like good at surviving things. And then if I could be like, hey, like I used to write kids' books. Can I like write your story and I'll follow you around and make you like a legend or something by telling your tale. If you keep me alive, that's like the one chance that I would have.
Yeah, I have to admit, I would be a zombie immediately. So I wouldn't make it very far. Yeah,
I feel like that's better than like spending years like trying to make it and then just then you lose.
I think so too. Zombies seem like they're not having fun, but they're doing all right. Max, unfortunately, our time is up. Thank you so much for joining us today. It has truly been a pleasure to speak to you for the last half hour.
Thank you. I cannot wait to get out of my garage. It is not built to be in the summer. This was really awesome. Those are great questions. I want to thank all the kids' questions, all your questions. They're all great all around. Thanks. This is really fun.
I also want to extend a huge thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in to our author talk today. Without your support, none of this would be possible, and we thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. As a reminder, below the live stream video in the Rate This Program tab, you can find a link to the resources area, which contains links to the author's books. We look forward to seeing you all again for our next author talk. Once again, I am Jasmine Castillo with the amazing Max Brallier. Thank you for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you, Jasmine.